December 24th. It's the night before Christmas. And while most people in the small town of Carnation, Washington, are busy hanging their stockings with care, it's a very different scene at the rural home of beloved locals Wayne and Judy Anderson. Shortly after 5 p.m., dispatchers at the Kane County Sheriff's Office receive this chilling call.
Hello?
A few seconds of what sounds like screaming.
Hello?
And then the phone goes dead. Deputies are sent to investigate the Andersons' 10-acre estate, but never make it past the locked gate at the end of their long driveway. Then, 2 days later, December 26th, thanks to a gut feeling from mail carrier and Judy Anderson's best friend, Linda Teeley, the true nature of the 911 call is revealed.
Christmas Eve, Christmas comes and goes. After the holidays, we all get back to work.
Right.
Take me there.
The last time I had seen Judy was on the 23rd, and we had hugged because we knew that we weren't going to probably cross paths until the day after Christmas. On the 26th, I went to work, probably 7 o'clock when I went into work, and Judy wasn't there yet, which wasn't real strange. But by 7:30, she should have been there. And by about 7:45, there's no doubt in my mind that there is something very, very wrong.
Call it best friend's intuition or something else. But with little more than a hunch to go on, Linda leaves work and races to Judy's house.
So by now I'm crying. I mean, I know there is something wrong, drastically wrong, with my friend.
And soon, it seems her worst fears are confirmed.
The house was unlocked, and Judy always kept her house locked. And so I opened the door a little bit and I yelled, "Judy, it's Linda." And there's no response. And so I opened the door farther and leaned in and yelled, "Judy, it's Linda, we're worried about you." I look down and I can see a man is laying on the ground.
911?
There's been a murder. There's 3 people dead that I can see right now.
Inside?
I just came up. She works with me.
Inside a house?
Yes.
What do you see?
There's a baby and a man and a woman, and she's my best friend.
Terrified and in shock, Linda continues talking with dispatchers, trying to make sense of the horror.
And this is your best friend?
Well, you know, looking at the woman that's dead out there, I'm not sure it's Judy. There's no light in that room.
In fact, when investigators arrive around 9:30 that morning, they find that the adult bodies are actually those of Wayne and Judy's son Scott and daughter-in-law Erica. The baby boy, their 3-year-old son Nathan, still clutching his mother's chest. Sadly, beneath Erica's body, apparently huddled for safety, they find a 4th victim, 5-year-old daughter Olivia. All 4 members of the family have been shot through the head. It is one of the most heinous crimes former County Prosecutor James Conant has ever seen.
There was very little sign of struggle. Scott Anderson had taken his boots off and they were lying at the foot of the couch. And so it wasn't as if somebody had been ambushed when they walked in.
And it's about to get even more unbelievable.
I was called in the early morning hours the day after Christmas. The first call I received from the sergeant who was presiding over the crime scene that morning was that there were 4 dead bodies in a home. A short time later, just about the time I was en route to the crime scene, we learned that there were actually 6 bodies.
Hidden in a shed behind the house, officers find the bodies of Wayne and Judy Anderson. Like the others, they have been shot to death. Judy's best friend Linda gets the news while still on the scene.
While we're in the squad car, the police radio comes on, and they used something like, he said something like L6 or something like that. And the detective immediately moved to turn off the radio. And I said, "They found more bodies, didn't they?" And he says, "Yes." He says, "This is the worst murder case I have ever been on." I just cried.
Across town, Erica's mother, Pamela Mantle, is just getting the news. She last spoke with her daughter as she was leaving for the Andersons 2 days before.
The thought of my daughter walking in there thinking she's, going to her in-laws, everybody's having a great time. She was in a wonderful mood, and it's just like so shocking. You can't digest it or get it through your head that these people, you're not going to see them again. Because they were just here,
With 6 bodies and no suspects, investigators begin scouring for leads. Did the killer or killers know the family, or was this the work of a random spree killer who could be looking for their next victim? As it turned out, police would not have to look far for clues. Christmas Eve in the small town of Carnation, Washington. 6 members of the Anderson family are cut down by gunfire. Their bodies are found 2 days later, on the morning of the 26th. Who could perpetrate such a violent and hateful act? As far as anyone knew, the Andersons had no enemies.
She just was a good person. No one had anything bad to say about her. She just was one of those people that was always there for you.
And by all accounts, the rest of the family was equally loved. Wayne, a self-made man, and well-respected member of the community. The Anderson son, Scott, a hard worker and ardent family man.
Erica was my oldest child, and she was a child that anybody would be proud to have as their, she was like the model kid.
But within hours of the tragic and horrifying discovery, investigators are surprised by an unexpected arrival at the taped-off crime scene.
At about 11 o'clock in the morning, we received word that 2 people who claimed to live on the property were out near the gravel road and were asking to be let in.
The 2 people in question, Wayne and Judy's surviving daughter, Michelle, along with her 29-year-old boyfriend, Joseph McEnroe. The cops soon learned the 2 were living rent-free in a mobile home on Michelle's parents' property, just a few hundred feet away from the main house.
Linda, tell me about Joe.
He and Michelle met online, and they both had the same interests in, I guess it would be called the occult, I don't know, but in the darker side of lives.
According to friends, the Andersons happily welcomed Joe into their family. But soon, the couple began isolating themselves, Michelle in particular.
Erica wasn't a big fan of Michelle. Michelle was, you know, any little thing that happened was a slight against her. You know, you look at her crosswise and, or, you know, oh, you're talking about me.
Judy and I discussed Michelle more than anybody because Judy worried with the lifestyle that she was living.
So why were Joe and Michelle only turning up now? And where were they on the night of the murders? Detectives quickly noticed that neither of them asked one single question about why police are there. Suspiciously, not the behavior of a family member stumbling on a 6-person murder scene. Actual footage from the crime scene shows the encounter. Detectives split the 2 up, and what they learn leaves them totally stunned.
It didn't take long for 2 very seasoned homicide investigators to uncover in their conversations with them that they were responsible for the homicides.
That's right. Cops realized the horrific killings of 3 generations of Andersons were carried out by Joe and Michelle. And according to the killers themselves, in hundreds of pages of confessions to police, what really happened is almost too heinous for words.
The clearest information that we received from her in the course of her 3 or 4 hour conversation with the detectives was that she was upset with her brother Scott.
It began on the afternoon of December 24th. Wayne and Judy were preparing a Christmas Eve dinner for Scott, Erica, and the grandkids, who were scheduled to arrive later in the day. Sometime after 4 p.m., Michelle and Joe enter Wayne and Judy's house, armed with a .357 revolver and a 9mm handgun.
By both accounts, Michelle took a shot at her dad in the living room while Joe was keeping her mother occupied so that she wouldn't see it. And it would appear that Michelle missed, and that's when Joseph McEnroe put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. After Wayne Anderson was killed and was lying on the floor, they turned the guns on his wife, Judy, and she, by both accounts, she begged them not to do so.
3 more shots, and Judy falls dead. Then, with both Wayne and Judy eliminated, Michelle and Joseph dragged their bodies to a shed out back.
And they had to do that before Scott and Erica arrived at 5 o'clock, which they knew from speaking with Judy the day before.
Lying in wait, cold, calculating.
When Scott and Erica arrived with the 2 small children at their prearranged 5 o'clock time, They came into the living room, sat down.
And that's when Michelle made her move, shooting her brother multiple times before he even knew what hit him. Then the murderous couple turned their sights on Erica.
At some point while Michelle and Joe McEnroe are shooting Erica, whatever gun is being used is out of ammunition. And during that time that they realize they're out of ammunition, she reaches over the couch and grabs the landline, a cordless phone, and dials 911.
The absolute terror. I mean, she jumped over the damn sofa with 3 bullets in her and grabbed the phone to call 911.
Hello?
By the time that the 911 operator responds, Joe McEnroe, by his own admission, takes the handset from her, takes the back off of the phone and removes the batteries and throws it against the wall.
Hello? Hello?
He then, with Erica pleading for her life, fires the 2 fatal rounds into her, including the one essentially between her eyes, in execution style.
Joe then turns the violence toward the children, fires 1 shot into young Olivia, then turns the gun on 3-year-old Nathan, still clutching his mother's chest. Why on earth would Michelle want to murder her family? And how could she ever convince her then-boyfriend Joe to carry out the most excruciating part of this grisly plan, to gun down her niece and nephew?
These 2 were dissatisfied with the fact that Wayne and Judy Anderson seemed to like her brother Scott more than they liked Michelle. And as petty as that may sound, that was the reason why Michelle Anderson told those detectives that she and her boyfriend went up and killed 6 people the day before Christmas.
Prosecutors immediately charged the 2 with 6 counts of aggravated murder, one of the few charges in Washington state eligible for the death penalty. 7.5 long years after the murders, Joseph finally stands trial. It takes a day and a half of deliberation for a jury to find him guilty on all counts. But at sentencing, Joseph's defense paints him as a mentally ill man who was manipulated by the real mastermind, his girlfriend, Michelle.
She had a lot of anger and a lot of hatred, and she thought that the best way to act on that would be to go off and kill people. I was really her attack dog when this stuff happened. I did because I thought I had to. And yeah, I know that's not a very good excuse, but I'm not trying to excuse myself. I'm just trying to explain my actions.
And explain his actions he did in chilling detail.
So I went and moved Judy first. I put a bag over her head because I couldn't look at her because of see the emptiness. Well, she should be. So
It's a powerful moment, but family members and prosecution maintain it's all an act.
Whatever. Could care less what he has to say. I am not impressed with him at all.
Then, in one of the most emotional moments of the trial, McEnroe describes 3-year-old Nathan's final moments alive.
he had actually held up the phone battery and showed it to me, like he understood and accepted what was going on.
He handed the batteries to that monster and he shot him. That's not a man. He's just a monster.
The courtroom is electrified, family members beside themselves with grief, but the jury split. 8-4 in favor of death. He was sentenced to life without parole.
Should he have gotten the death penalty?
Judy and I had talked about the death penalty, and we believed that God should do the judging, not us. And so I don't actually, to be honest, I would prefer to be dead than in jail the rest of my life.
Michelle's own trial will soon begin. But despite the outcome, for those who loved the Andersons, justice has become only a word.
There's always this big hole. There's a big hole in my life, and my Erica was my oldest child. We will never know what Olivia and Nathan could have become. Michelle and Joe McEnroe ruined our lives.